ever worried that you might be the cool kid? You wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends? Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream? Always so generic, more normal than your friends? Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can't sleep easy after all that you've heard. Cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all. Tyler, Phil, and Boris. So Canon, it's Canon, it's all in Canon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the It's Canon podcast. That's right. New day, new week, new episode. As always, I am your host. I'm Boris. And this week, I am joined by Phil.
Hey, everybody. How you doing out there? I hope everybody is safe.
I think hopefully. What a week it's been. It's been a very fun week. It's been a very weird week. It's been a surreal week, to say the least. But it is the It's Canon podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things, everything. All things include comics, books, toys, video games, Lego, etc., etc., etc. And the best part of it all is, it's all in canon.
I heard a little bird say it's in canon.
There you go. Phil, how's your week been?
It's been, for a short week, it felt like a long week. But it's been good, watching Brave New World, playing some Animal Crossing, making all the characters say some pretty messed up stuff. It's been good.
There you go.
How about you?
My week's been pretty good, I think. I don't know. It's been a weird week. It's been good, I think.
Good.
Yeah,
that's excellent.
It's been weird. But it's been good. It's been weird. But good. Oh, man. What a week. What a show we have for everyone. Well, what a couple shows we have for everyone this week. We have our regular news, chatter, arguments today. And then on Wednesday, we have a very awesome show lined up with a very cool interview. We interviewed Jim Zub, comic book writer. We talked about a lot of broad subjects. We talked a lot, creating creator-owned characters versus and along with, well-established IPs. Kind of, how nerve-wracking it can be to take a existing IP and kind of going along with it, putting words to Spider-Man, Captain America, Yoda, etc. We talked a little. Yeah, Conan the Barbarian. That's a huge one. That's his current work right now. We talked a little bit about, the realities of 2020 and kind of how he's been coping. We talked a little bit about, how people are a little more open nowadays, and that's for sure something that I've noticed. We talked a lot about a lot of stuff. It was very good.
Yeah.
The full interview will be on the episode, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, that'll be dropping on Wednesday, everybody. So, and Jim does a really good job as someone who's kind of fresh to some of Jim's work. I was really impressed with how he conducts himself and his self-discipline and whatnot. It's all discussed. So it'll be a great episode. So look forward to treating your ears to that.
Yeah. This week, today, news. Where are we going to start? Let's start with the fun and the obvious. So, Disney is going to reorg to further bolster their company's focus on streaming. I don't think this is a huge surprise to anyone, but last Monday, Disney said that it is reorganizing its business units to focus even more on streaming. The company said in August that its Disney Plus service has more than 60 million subscribers, and subscribers to its main combination of streaming services, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu, top 100 million. It still does plan to launch another international streaming service called Star. So we talked about that in the past. With the coronavirus pandemic, it's just halted box office revenue, closing many theaters. Business plans are changing. Even Disney and how they are releasing movies have changed. I think a lot of more focus will be going to streaming services, streaming platforms, and I think we're going to see a lot of good, positive changes coming. What's your take on this, Phil?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. I think given the state of the world, given how these companies are looking to drive revenue, and revenue right now is subscriptions. So it is, the idea of you're going to sell Blu-rays, the idea that they're going to be getting into the box office isn't something that's going to be happening for a while. There's not going to be any mad rushes at the cash register on those avenues. So that means it's all going to be a war of where your monthly goes, right? So, it broke this week as well. Jon Favreau confirmed that they're set to start filming season 3 of The Mandalorian this year. Like this is Disney starting to put stuff in overdrive, and there's lots of leaks and rumors. I know I'm always playing the Star Wars angle, but there's lots of leaks and rumors regarding Disney greenlighting, or at least close to greenlighting, certain breakout shows from the Mandalorian's cast characters, with Cara Dune getting her own show possibly, with there's a whole bunch of these characters that are coming up in season 2 that Disney is positioning, as well as Obi-Wan, and you've got all the Marvel stuff that's hitting, like Captain, like the Falcon type show, the WandaVision, all this stuff is there. The current rumor is that Kevin Feige is the person that's blocking Black Widow from switching over from a theatrical release to Disney Plus. That's the current rumor that I was picking up on this week.
Yeah, that really doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Another piece of news that we're going to jump into right now goes hand in hand with this, and that is Disney's decision to debut Pixar's Soul is that they will be pushing it to Disney Plus at no extra cost, which clearly they're changing their strategy after the Mulan experiment. We don't have numbers on viewership data on Mulan, but clearly internally there was a decision made at some point in time that that's not the plan moving forward. So Pixar's Soul will come to Disney Plus on December 25th at no additional cost.
I think Disney have been fairly careful with how they handled Mulan, and in that, I mean, I think they could do it in the future. I think if Black Widow not being released starts to impact Marvel in general, or Marvel's rollout, I think they're going to be forced to bring it out onto Disney Plus, and they may copy that type of format if push comes to shove and Kevin loses, because if you can't jeopardize the whole Marvel brand, right? The content needs to be seen. And like I say, financing on these films is huge. And to keep them locked up or locked away requires money. So Disney will be eager at some point to get these out. And the worse this pandemic looks in the second wave, obviously, is going to determine their strategy going forward. I'm happy that Soul is going directly to a free view, or, a subscribed view. I'm really pleased about that, because as we discussed briefly this week, Mulan also came out this week on all the other streaming platforms, and I gotta say, if I was a Disney Plus subscriber, that I know that you bought it, but I know why you bought it, and that's okay. I think you fall into a category that could be happy with this. But if I was actually a fan of Mulan, if I was like really entrenched into that IP, like that story, the problem that I have right now is it released on all the other platforms at the same price, which is good. But all the other platforms have extras that I didn't get with my Disney Plus. So they have the documentaries, they have the extra scenes, they have the outtakes, they have the gag reels or whatever, anything extra, because they got a full production Blu-ray with their purchase on iTunes. Whereas on Disney Plus, I paid the same amount of money and I got to watch the movie. And if I want to continue to watch the movie, I have to maintain my subscription. So it's going to cost me in perpetuity to be able to watch Mulan. Whereas if I would have just waited, I would have got extra, and I can just call it up in my library if I'm subscribing or not. It was disingenuous to the fans.
Yeah, possibly. But again, I go back to the fact that, they had to do something. That movie was supposed to come out in March, and I know that there are other movies that have been delayed that are kind of waiting on a server somewhere, but, that movie was supposed to be released back in March. It being the IP that it is, being Disney, I understand why they wanted to do that the way that they did. Obviously, things have been changing a lot and very quickly. So, was it a good release? Probably not. There's probably a lot of things that they would want to change, but the reality is that, they did what they wanted to do. They did what they could do. For a family of 4 or 5 people, it made sense. Not withholding the fact that, like you said, to keep the movie, you have to keep your Disney Plus subscription. Now, like on Amazon, iTunes, etc., you can get the movie because it's now considered like a Blu-ray release, a digital release. So, it's the unfortunate, I guess, backside of all of this is that, possibly people got screwed. Possibly people felt that they did get screwed. But, Disney was like stuck between a rock and a hard place. That's, at the end of the day, that's what it was.
Here's what it means, though, for me, and I think for a lot of other fans. If they try the same thing with Black Widow, I'm not buying it. I'm waiting until it comes out on the other platforms because, number one, then it's in my collection and I don't have to maintain my subscription. Truth be told, I probably will. But now it's a point of contention in that maybe I don't want it, and then I lose it. And secondly, all the extras, like that, those things mean something to me when I'm a fan of the product or the series. Like for Black Widow, so that instantly eliminates the way that they handled it. And I think they should have, I applaud them for trying something. But what I don't applaud them for is planning it out. These franchises mean things to people. And when they treat people like money instead of respecting the property, it just ends up being Disney. It's like that caricature in your mind of this behemoth of a company that doesn't give 2 craps about you. And there's acting like it, right? It's like, oh, that's a big misstep. Disney have to try and make this up to the fans and get their confidence back that they're not going to continue to do stuff like this in the future with the most hallowed franchises that people dedicate their lives to, whether it be Marvel, whether it be Star Wars, whether it be The Simpsons or anything else. Like that's their responsibility, is to wield their power with more respect to the fans. And that's what we're about here on the show.
I don't know about that. I wouldn't go that far that they don't respect their fans. I wouldn't say...
No, they just have to be more responsible with it.
Yeah, for sure. That I agree with. But I don't think that they don't respect their fans. I know that, they do see us as dollar signs, and that's pretty much it. But, I think that given everything that's happened, given so much uncertainty with theaters and everything, they did, they rolled out something that they thought was the best plan possible for them, and really trying to get like the families, and that's really who they tried to push that for. But I understand and I agree with you in terms of kind of like, now Disney kind of has to turn around and not apologize, but not do this again. Yeah,
exactly. They could have just released it on Disney Plus.
Could've.
Oh, you're already subscribers, just like they're doing with Pixar, right? Like just like they did with Artemis Fowl and all this other stuff. They just said, we're going to skip the theater. Guess what? It's a pandemic. You can have it. They advanced Star Wars Rise of Skywalker because they're like, hey, everybody's in lockdown. Here's Rise of Skywalker 2 months early.
Yeah.
Like there was an easy win in there, and they chose not to do it. There's repercussions for that. I hope they learn what they are.
That's it. That's what it comes down to.
Step in the future.
Yeah,
but if shows like ours and fans like that follow us and follow Disney don't call it out, then Disney are going to keep on, doing what they do, like living up to that stereotype, that cynical stereotype that we have.
Of course, but that's the thing. But here's the thing: even if fans are pissed off, 200 people cancel Disney Plus subscriptions, 200 people do this, 200 people do that. Is it really going to hurt their bottom line at the end of the day? Like, how much are they actually going to be hurting if a couple people are pissed off?
Yeah, but I just think maybe Mulan was a good experimental because your backlash fan reaction would be minimal. But there's going to be a time where, all the properties that they hold, all the fans of those things are going to collectively start to get pissed off potentially.
Yeah.
If mistakes bleed over, like they can contain this, I know they will. I'm just, fleshing it out, just doing some digital riffing here,
Of course. Also, Disney Plus, Disney announced earlier this week that on Tuesday, November 17th, we are going to get a Lego Star Wars holiday special.
Yeah, and they're great ads too on Twitter and social media with Luke's hand and Anakin's legs and arm.
No, it's great.
And the funniest thing about this release is that it's re-dragging the swamp of Lucasfilm, that infamous holiday special that George Lucas absolutely detests, and it brings it back with Life Day, with that disjointed Christmas feel, right?
Yeah.
The Star Wars Christmas, and I don't know, it puts it front and center in a fun way, and I think that's the benefit of Star Wars Lego that Disney has, is that they can retell the stories that we all know with humor.
Yeah.
We've all played the video games. We've all seen the DVDs and even on Disney Plus, the shows, the All-Stars and everything like that. And it is enjoyable to sit down and watch the alternate humorous takes in the Star Wars world when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a real license to, you're not in canon.
Yeah.
You can have some fun with it.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think, one thing that we always tell Disney is that they need to have more fun with their IPs. They sometimes take themselves too seriously, but I'm glad that, they can insert some humor using the Lego because it is somewhat out of canon. And then one thing that's really cool is that Anthony Daniels, Kelly Marie Tran, and Billy D. Williams are all reprising their roles, doing voice acting in this holiday special.
Yeah, it's great to see them lending their voices to the project. And I know with the Lego team, the voices are pretty much on point, like the characters are defined and whatnot. So having the authentic voices in there mixed in with the regular voice acting is going to make it hilarious and probably some very memorable moments. So it's going to be a real treat to watch as a Star Wars and Lego fan.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's that. That's Star Wars.
So yeah.
That's Disney Plus.
It'll be
November
exciting.
17th, we'll for sure watch it. We'll talk about it that week. It's going to be fun.
Life Day.
Life Day indeed.
Maybe
Also-
B. Arthur will be on. Is she still around?
Who?
B. Arthur.
Oh,
From the
God.
Golden Girls.
Yeah. I didn't
was
hear
in
what
the
you
Star
said.
Wars special,
I didn't hear
exactly.
what you said.
Oh,
Calm
sorry.
down.
Oh, okay. No, she's still around, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You never know. They were old when they made the Golden Girls. So
Yeah, exactly. As you mentioned, Mandalorian Season 3 to begin filming before end of 2020. It's one of those things where I kind of feel like they're just, while things can get done, they're going to want to get them done. Because you never, at this point, who knows what 2021 is going to bring? Who knows what the next few months are going to bring? So right now that things are somewhat stable, I think it's smart that they take advantage of it and just go and film what they can, especially when you consider how they film The Mandalorian. You know, it's I'm sure that it doesn't take as much time to actually do the production. It's the post-production work where, you know, I think a lot of the time comes.
yeah, you know, we're referencing that volume that they film in, right? So it's LED screens all around and on the top. So it's basically like shooting on a soundstage and getting realistic effects that they just have to touch up and post. I'm making it sound really easy, and it's not. It's probably a very involved thing. It's just, you know, they do very limited location shoots because of this technology advancement. And yeah, it's time to just get in there. I think both season 1 and season 2 were done on a similar time schedule. So I don't think anybody should be getting optimistic about an idea that we could get Mandalorian season 3 ahead of time to comply with that Disney, the first story with the Disney kind of focus on Disney Plus. I think it's still going to take quite a while in order to get through the post-production and reshoots. But as well, it is confirmed that Pedro Pascal will be back as the Mandalorian. So we can put that to bed, that rumor. So, you know, it's not to say that stuff didn't happen or go down between Pedro Pascal and Lucasfilm, but they seem to have overcome it. And that's a good sign for the show.
Yep. Very good sign for the show. Very, very good sign. Mad Max.
We've had a lot of, oh, sorry, I'm going to put this in right here. We've had a lot of alternate releases as well this week. There was a 30-second drop for season 2 of The Mandalorian, which had just a few different pieces in it. One of the shots had lava erupting behind the TIE fighters versus the original one, and the one in the trailer didn't have lava. So they're retouching or changing what's being shown. And apparently tomorrow night during Monday Night Football, there's going to be a special look at The Mandalorian. I don't know what that means, if it's another trailer or if it's going to be some behind the scenes footage or interviews with cast on set, but they're going to be doing something. I just caught a whiff of it yesterday on the news, or, you know, during a commercial.
Right. There you go. We'll see what that brings. Anything else to say on that?
No, I think that's all my Mandalorian news.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if there's something, I can't imagine it being more than a 2-minute bit that we're talking about, because I know the way that ABC does this with the Monday Night Football things, and they'll make a big deal about it. They'll cut away to some featurette and then they'll cut back.
Yeah.
So it's dedicated time slotting. It's not just a commercial, I hope. So if they do that, if there's anything significant, I'm sure we're going to be talking about it.
Yep. Exactly.
You know, like I'm just wondering, the original trailer, the rumors are that they wanted to show Ahsoka, and
Yeah.
it got nixed. So I'm just
not
wondering,
shocked.
is this when Ahsoka gets displayed? Because they released an Ahsoka lightsaber, the images for the packaging. It's upcoming Hasbro Black Series lightsaber, and it pretty much looks like Rosario Dawson is Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Like it looks like a photo, not a drawing. You know what I mean? Like it's spoilery.
Yeah. I know. But here we are, right?
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. League of Legends Wild Rift is coming to iOS. For all you League of Legends fans, you'll be able to play the game on iOS. That's good of Riot to do that. Very popular game. Interesting community, but that's just some news for them. And that was one of those low-key announcements that was made at the Apple High Speed event. In terms of video
Yeah, snuck it in
games,
there.
yeah, they just threw it in there, kind of like how I did. In terms of video games, Phil, what's happening? What's going on? Any news you want to bring up?
I didn't see much this week. It was kind of a quiet week, you know, like Stadia are saying that they're not going away, but it was kind of statements from development team and executives that could be read either way. Because while they said we're committed to moving this platform forward if we can, it was like, well, it just seems to me more and more that Google is spinning Stadia out into a region where they're just going to put it in the Google graveyard.
Yeah.
And that's it. So they did mention that Cyberpunk is going to be available on Stadia day one, but I don't think that there's any sane person right now that I would advise putting $70 into Google Stadia, and then if Stadia goes away, you lose your game.
Yeah.
Like, this is really crap territory that they're putting their customers in.
Yeah.
And if they do that, I think that it's going to, again, draw real anger out of people who make that commitment. So, you know, they've got to step properly here, you know, and then we've got Luna, we've got the xCloud or whatever the Microsoft is just calling it, Game Pass. The next generation is here as far as streaming, you know. And then when we look at the other platforms, I think the news that I saw this week is Borderlands 3 is an automatic day one upgrade to the new Xbox and PS5.
Right.
So
do you know how these
be able
upgrades
to
are going to
get
work?
some polish. I don't know, but I get the feeling like what you're going to have to do is actually have the game in your library. Then you're going to have to download some kind of update. That will be a 4K update. And this is where people are going to start to get shocked. Because the Xbox Series, the Xbox One X really shocked a lot of people, because if you download a true 4K game, it could be upwards of 150 gigabytes.
Yeah.
So this is where those, you know, low hard drive capacities, whatever, are going to really start impacting people's ISPs and things like that, because, you know, November 12th or whatever, when these things go live, there's going to be tons of people just downloading the crap out of existing libraries and getting them in this upgraded format.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just really comes down to the developer acknowledging that you have a digital copy or a physical copy of the game, and then giving you that upgrade. So then if you do have the physical disc, you will still need to insert the physical disc in. I don't know how that works actually on a discless. So, like, I've already bought Borderlands 3 on disc.
Yeah.
How do I get, you know, for that type of thing? I think it just really preaches to the idea that with this digital world, we're going to have to start buying our games completely digital. Like, there's no incentive to buy the disc other than the resell, but
yeah,
and move around your family for sure, or friends. But it's really becoming
the incentive is for sure there to get digital as opposed to physical at this point. It just makes more sense. And like I said, if it wasn't for the fact that I trade games with my nephew, and friends, there would be zero reason for me to buy physical.
Yeah, it's a weird space to be in right now, but I'm becoming very cognizant of it with my gaming library. But I don't know, like, to me, Boris, how much am I gonna want to buy a PS5 to just play PS4 games? Why don't, like,
See,
unless there is a really tangible upgrade to the graphics or the experience, right? Like ray tracing,
this is one of
sunlight,
my issues with this entire next gen of gaming, and we were seeing this more and more this gen, but the next gen, it just seems to be remakes and re-releases of, games that I've been playing for the past 7 years. Like, you know I want more original new next gen titles. I don't want upgrades. I don't want whatever. To me, it's not a selling point. I want to play the new games. I don't give a shit about stuff that's been out for how many years. Like, it's great. Okay, it's fantastic that Borderlands and Cyberpunk and all these games are getting the free upgrades, but to me, what does that really mean? It just means that, these publishers are buying time to actually release new titles because they can get away with still making money on old IP, and now they can sell it at a higher price point.
Yeah, it's been one of my core arguments. It is the reason why I think Microsoft gets it right is because they're giving you the Game Pass. So they're giving you content that's changing regularly. So you can go in there and you can go, oh, okay, and EA Play is going to be on it. And obviously there's going to be a huge crush of Bethesda and like all of these different titles that have access to the Xbox platform now. And you're going to be able to go in there and obtain those. So if you skipped Doom Eternal on the previous version, you might be getting an enhanced version. I don't know. I'm speaking out my ass on this one, but you might be getting a better version on your PlayStation, on your Xbox Series X. So I find that's an interesting play in the market because it's allowing you that experience. Whereas basically Sony are saying, "Oh no, if you had the game, you can play it still." Well, that was nice of you. Like, it's not, like you say, it's not motivating me to go to Sony PS5 for that reason. It's got to be about the games. It's got to be about, I want Horizon Zero or Horizon Dawn 2. I want this stuff. And they're basically saying that these games are going to be available on the PS4 because it's such a large install base. So yeah. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to participate in this circus of trying to get one.
Well, here's the thing also, and we always forget to bring it up and talk about it, but PlayStation also has PS Now, which is kind of their version of Game Pass, where you can play older games and whatnot and have that subscription service and whatnot. But it's just, it gets lost kind of in a lot of the other Sony stuff, and hopefully they've talked a little more about it. It was kind of a feature of their presentations when they introduced PS5 and all that fun stuff. But, they have the same stuff as Xbox does. So, for me, and this is why I say backwards compatibility is dumb, because at the end of the day, they want you to subscribe to Game Pass, to PS Now. That's like the whole point of that. So, it being kind of like an emulator of sorts, do the new systems actually need backwards compatibility? Is it really that important? Does anyone really actually care about it? There are people who do, I guess, but I'm not one of them.
I'll be curious to see a game like, if I do get an Xbox, I'll be curious to see a game like Horizon 4, and see that thing load up, because right now it's a total pig. It's disgusting on an Xbox One. Like, I sit there and start the game. I can literally go get a drink. I can come back. I hit the next button. Okay, now it's loading. and then it's loading textures, and then it's loading this, and I'm just like, it is frustrating. Like, these hard drives are slow.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest feature of next gen that I'm looking forward to having, the wait times. Like, seeing some of that press that I've seen, and I know Sony will come out with it because this week they did show off their UI. So that was kind of video game news for the week.
Yeah. It's
looks
funny
nice.
though, like that's
No surprises.
big news that, hey, this is what the UI for the new system looks like. Isn't it beautiful? Talk about it. And here we are talking about it.
Yeah, I only bring it up because it was an event that got noticed.
Yeah.
And it's a response to Xbox. Xbox actually released their Xbox One, like their Xbox Series X and S OSs for the Xbox One. Mine updated this week.
Yeah.
So I've got the new OS on my Xbox. So I'm already experiencing it. I'm going, hey, look, they changed this menu system around. Hey, look, they rounded this. It's all really small things. But it's just that it landed in people's laps.
Yeah.
Sony, are playing it completely opposite, but I know they felt compelled to at least get some buzz about it because people were talking about their experience on Xbox.
Of course.
So, you see them talk about the internals of the Series X, and what does Sony do? They counter with, well, here's our lead engineer doing a full teardown. Liquid metal, heat sinks, all this insanity inside of that machine.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, okay, so this is a game of chess.
Yeah.
And I'm the prize.
Yeah.
Because they want my money.
Exactly.
So we may as well eat it up, folks, because after this is done, I'm just the product again. I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, they're competing for me right now. When this is done, they're just going to say, okay, give us more money. Here's a game. Here's some candy.
Yeah, exactly. So,
it's a funny
sticking with
relationship.
video games, one of the, I guess, interesting items that was brought to our attention was the SEO firm The Hoth. They had their analysts. They poured over data from Google Trends throughout the year, and they've concluded that Xbox Series X will outsell the PlayStation 5 by Christmas.
Wow. Well, does it basically just mean, well, you know why they can say that? $2.99 American.
Yep.
That's what that's all about, is that's their play in that space in order to get the numbers. As long as there's product available, like if this scarcity pre-order crap show wasn't what it is, and we could go out and buy the frickin' product, all right, then it would be an interesting war, because I think Microsoft does win based off of $2.99 or $3.99 in Canada.
Yeah.
But
here's the thing, though.
It's tough.
It's tough, and one thing I want to touch on that you brought up was this crap shoot. This crap show, this shit show, this unnerving adventure for some, like Tyler, in regards to trying to get a pre-order of a system. Because just a few months ago, as the pandemic was really raging, Sony and Microsoft came out and they said, guys, don't worry, you'll get your systems, there'll be plenty. And, I just find that this rollout has been absolutely horrible. And one thing that we talked about, and I think should be repeated, is the fact that, it's no secret that Sony is outselling Xbox right now in terms of pre-sales, but this is the long term, we might see a win-win for both systems. I see Sony doing really well with pre-orders. There might not be as much product once, systems are out by mid-November. So Xbox might actually sell more in-store as opposed to the pre-orders because you don't have the Sony PlayStation 5 in hand.
Well, if they get these boxes, these $2.99 digital boxes out to market, it's a brilliant move in terms of the consumer walking by and just grabbing it and slapping it in their cart.
Yeah.
But the problem that they've opened up, as we've discussed, is that the S isn't really, it's hindering the X in the development. It's confusing it's not 4K, things like that. Like it's kind of a short-term solution with a long-term hangover. So Microsoft has to be very careful about this because they have to manage what their install base is and start reacting accordingly. And I see it getting ugly. I just see a lot of marketplace confusion. And then additional to all this news that we're talking about, I know it's probably a news bulletin, but it makes sense to put it in here. There was some work in terms of the vague press release that Microsoft and GameStop produced last week. We talked about it on the show. They came out and they said that they're doing that partnership, that affiliation. They talked about using the xCloud as a platform for GameStop as an architectural, informational gateway for them, for their systems, and using the Surface Pros in store, that type of thing. But some analytics were done. Some people who basically report on these contracts basically came forward and they said, oh, in this contract, look at this. They actually award GameStop the ability to collect in perpetuity continued revenue on any digital sales. So if somebody goes into basically GameStop or EB Games, I'm assuming is included in this as well, they're going to be able to buy the Xbox and then any digital game. So for the Xbox Series S, any digital purchase, and X as well. But I think with diskless games, this just incentivized GameStop to sell diskless.
Exactly.
And it incentivized GameStop to sell Xbox.
Yep.
And there's nothing that says that Sony can't do the same thing. But from what we know, Sony hasn't. And maybe that's why Sony are short producing the diskless version and overproducing to market the disc version.
Yeah. To me, that makes sense.
A lot of stuff is starting to clarify now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, clearly Sony got wind of this deal and they kind of saw what was happening. And I'd be very interested to see what Sony counterpunches this with. And I'm surprised that no announcements have been made thus far. I'm surprised that we haven't heard anything or even any rumblings of a partnership with a brick and mortar store like this. It's Microsoft played their cards really well. This is huge for both companies, meaning Microsoft and GameStop. Sorry. It makes sense for them, and we'll see what Sony comes back with.
Yeah, and I think maybe Sony got caught not expecting this to roll out this way, because I can't imagine that deal is an easy deal to make. So I don't know if that deal is actually going to be one where GameStop can't, it might be written into that deal that they're not allowed to do the same type of incentive with Sony.
Yeah.
So does that mean Sony has to go to like Best Buy and try to broker this deal, or Amazon or Walmart? It's got to go somewhere to try and get their hooks in. And the percentages, we should note as well, the percentages weren't disclosed.
Yeah.
So they said that it could be anywhere from like 1 to 10%. So I think 10% sounds awfully high, but here's the one thing. Digital games are a high markup item because you don't have any distribution in it. You don't have any warehousing. You don't have any product. Yeah. So, and they keep the sales integrity intact. They keep them at the same price, like we've discussed. They keep them at the same price as the physical media, but it could be that digital game could be a lot cheaper. You know, we know it's cheaper to produce in terms of getting it to market. So it could be that game could be sold at still making good revenue at like $50 instead of 70, right?
Yeah.
And now we're just talking about, wow, that extra cream on the top can now go to GameStop. So who knows what that percentage is? You know? I suspect it's low, but it could be renegotiated at any point in time, because it really just gets Microsoft out there in the hands of people. It increases their exposure, which is their play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's shot after shot, right? Like this entire release cycle.
Yeah, and it always is. Like, remember last time they released the PS4 and like Xbox went first, and basically people hated it. The PS4 completely ransacked their entire presentation to counter the negative news cycle that Microsoft had garnered. And it turns out Microsoft were probably right. That's the funny part. It's like they're just like their original breakdown of how they saw the digital gaming world going and how they saw this generation that we just finished of consoles going was probably more on point. And we've just been working a weird way to do exactly what we're doing now and have digital games.
Exactly. I would have thought, right? But
yeah,
it's just, you know, you also have to remember this is 7-8 years ago, right? Like we got news of these systems 8 years ago. They were released 7 years ago, and it's just so much has changed now, right? I think even the fact that you may not want to go to a store to buy video games anymore, right? Like there's just so much now working with all of this. So who knows? Yeah,
the world has definitely evolved. Yeah. Right. And sometimes good, bad ways, but we're changing our consumer habits to match the pandemic and to match the digital landscape. Mm-hmm. Right. I'll forever be a fan of digital for the simple fact that I don't need to be lining up at a store at midnight in order to get that first peek, you know, and then going home and installing it and then downloading a patch and all that stuff. Hey, it's ready. 12:01. Boom. I'm playing for 20 minutes. Go to bed.
Exactly. See, that's a huge thing because a lot of stores don't do midnight openings anymore, right? So not every title gets that coveted midnight opening slot.
Well, it was so difficult. I watched Microplay do it up here, and they had a drive-through midnight opening for the Mario release a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
And they had like all these social media posts like you enter your car here and then you're going to drive around the building, we're going to process your payment at this point, and then you're going to pick up your copy and then you'll drive around and get back out on the street here. It was an interesting experiment. I hope it went well for them.
Yeah. Exactly. So that is video game chat, and as Phil mentioned, you know, the world has changed. One industry that's been decimated to the point where we don't know what's going to happen, and that is movie theaters. So movie theaters for many years have been getting hit hard for one reason or another, but I believe during the pandemic, you know, it's up in the air. Will they exist moving forward? How will theatrical releases work? How will studios want to release their movies? Are they going to go straight to streaming? Like, what are they going to do? So, you know, as movie theaters continue to struggle, AMC Theaters is kind of thinking what they can do, and they've announced that customers can actually rent out full auditoriums for private screenings, with rentals starting at $99 American. So according to AMC, customers can rent out an auditorium for a private screening party for up to 20 total people. The rentals start at $99 before tax, but can increase to $349 depending on a few variables, such as movie being screened, theater location, add-ons like food and drinks. There are also charges for things such as microphones to greet guests, extended access time to the theater, removing ads and trailers, and other options. In order to request a private auditorium rental, customers just need to fill out a form on the AMC website, and a rep will contact you.
Oh man, that sounds weird, man. Good for them for being creative.
Yeah.
I guess I applaud them, but I can't see. And just full disclosure here, in my region, we're going to stage 2 lockdown as of tomorrow for 28 days. I know you're already in that, Boris, because here in Canada, we're having the numbers are rising. I don't understand, all right? Yesterday, I was out because I had to buy food. Okay, and the feeling in the grocery store was one of, I guess people seemed a little bit on edge and a little bit busier than I think I was anticipating. And I talked about it with some people, and they said, "Well, it's because of stage 2 kicking in on Monday. They're panic buying, or they're trying to get out and get stuff done." I'm like, "Well, the food store is going to be open. We just can't go eat in a restaurant or go to a movie theater. Like these trouble spots, go to a gym, things like that." And I just can't see wanting to go and do that. Now, it might be cool if maybe I had a kid and I wanted them to see Empire Strikes Back in the theater. It's a different experience, and that would be worth my $100 right there. But I just can't see the risk of exposure being enough to compel me to do something like this if the numbers get as bad as they think they're going to get, right?
We have to clear up some big Spider-Man 3 casting
it's
rumors.
Interesting,
Yeah.
I just think theaters are going to get closed down again. There's going to be any limitations that are out there right now on 20 people or whatever the regional limitations are going to be getting super strict again and whatnot as they try to flatten the curve here, right? Like that's what it's all about. Now, I don't know what it's going to be like in the States. It just seems like everything's a carnival as far as this virus and how it's being managed from a high level, right? It's unfortunate because the punchline is, sad. It's people are losing their lives for business. And that's not a great consoling message, right?
Yeah, but it's crazy.
I just can't see the risk. I just see it as dank and moist still. So
yeah, that's the thing. At the end of the day, you're essentially, and this is one of those only in America things, because here in Canada, you still have your social bubbles. Technically, you're only supposed to be people that, that live in the same household. So, why, like, one thing is renting a movie theater for like a family thing of like 5-6 people, but the fact that you can fill up this theater with up to 20 people just seems very weird, seems very odd, and like almost like the most American thing humanly possible.
Yeah. And the masks are going to be off and the popcorn's going to be eaten and hand that over here and all that. And I don't know. It's just got me like, it just seems to me like every week there's new information about the transmission of the virus and a better understanding scientifically of what's going on. And that just serves to show me that the risks that maybe sometimes we're willing to take aren't worth taking. It's that simple. It's like they don't have every answer to every issue about how this thing gets passed around. So
yeah.
I don't think I think I'm okay with my 55-inch 4K TV,
Yeah, exactly. That's, at the end of the day, and I'm going to stress this to all of our listeners, you only do what you're comfortable with,
Yeah. We're not advocating that everybody go out and get a movie theater for a couple hours, but if that's what you're comfortable doing,
go ahead.
To you. You have the freedom.
Yep. That's exactly it.
Don't lick the door handles.
Oh, God. That just sounds nasty. Fucking. Ugh. I don't even know.
You see, this is where my mind goes in terms of not licking the door handle, but all the common places that exist in a theater. If you have 20 theaters and you have all these groups renting them out at the same time and using the washroom. There's tons of areas that you could be exposed to the virus and not even in that same room with your people.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you have to think about how these structures are built, and you know, it's mind blowing. I'm like, you know, like if I could rent the whole theater for $99 and be the only have two people in it. Well, I don't know. And you're gonna disinfect it afterwards.
I can live with that. I can live with that.
I could live with that maybe, but
maybe after a few beers, you know. Jesus. All right. Any other things you want to bring up? Want to chat about?
No, I think most of it was, for me, I'm always geeked about Star Wars, you know. Animal Crossing is Animal Crossing. It's just that grind, man. Holy cow. They've made it, it's the most grinding I've done since like Destiny 2.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah, or Division 1. I did a lot of grinding in that in terms of dailies and whatnot. And I just don't understand, like it is nice in the sense that you get into the game and it creates a mood. It sets your mind into a comfortable place. There's that addiction of, I'm on my island, it's sunny, there's this music playing, the frickin' raccoons are overlords of this island and I'm subservient to them. You know, there's an environment that they create and they've been successfully doing.
Yeah.
So I understand the allure that way, but it is like, I've got 6 rocks that I need to go mine. I got 4 fossils I need to dig up. I've got 5 fish I need to catch, you know, in order to get, and like the points now, the awards are becoming meaningless to me because I've just got so much of it. I've got over, you know, these Nook miles or whatever. I'm getting up to 400,000, which is a lot. As far as the bells, which is the currency, I've got $6 million.
Right.
Like, and there's nothing in the game to spend it on, really. Like, you know, like I could just go through and start basically bulldozing the island and making it into a plaza. You know, like, it's just weird, man. I'm like, there's a definite end to it, and I've hit it. And I'm just seeing it out just to see the seasons.
Yeah.
And get the experience. To see what kind of havoc I can install into the people there.
Do you still play daily?
Yeah, I play once a day for half an hour approximately.
That's amazing.
So I've put toilets and urinals all throughout the island, because the funny thing is that when the NPC characters see them just hanging about, they start using them. And there's nothing like seeing a tiger popping a squat on a toilet in the middle of a field. I just call that the flushing meadow.
Man.
It's just so bizarre, just some of the behaviors of the NPCs. So
NPCs are so fun sometimes.
Yeah, they call me bum plug and all that stuff. It's just funny. Jizzy Jazz, Sticky Spaz. It's just weird, man. And then there's other characters I planted. I told one of the little mice to use a term, in the taint. And he's been using it. I forgot. I told him to say that.
Yeah.
So it's legit like throwing me during the game because he's like, oh man, that's awesome. In the taint.
That's sure. Oh, Phil.
No, I'm going to have fun with it. So.
Yeah. So one thing, as we're talking about movies and restrictions, you know, and to me, this one's an interesting one. So the Batman will continue to film despite increased restrictions in the UK. So due to the coronavirus pandemic, many film productions have been shut down and restarted multiple times. Everyone knows the Batman, you know, they've kind of had to start, stop. But, you know, with increased restrictions, it will not impact filming in the city of Liverpool, where they are filming the Batman. So it's to me, it's interesting, kind of like how we're starting to see, you know, some industries get a pass for the restrictions.
Yeah, and Liverpool and I think like England's having issues with the second wave. And I just think that with one of these productions, I guess the overall discussion with the city and whatnot is that there's probably licenses issued,
Yeah.
filming agreements. There's money being exchanged, and there's people's times and their schedules, because these actors don't have an infinite availability. They've, with these stops and starts and whatnot, the studio wants to have the movie in the can and just do post work on it, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter when the date is of actual release, as long as they have principal photography done, then they can go in and take their sweet ass time on editing or anything else, sound, music, all that kind of stuff. So, it's a different, and those people have demands too, obviously. Everyone's trying to fit into a timeline.
Yeah.
Right. So, I'll be happy when I know it's done.
Yeah.
Like for Dune, I'm happy it's done. It's immaterial to me when it releases now.
Yeah.
It just that's what 2020 has done to me. Right. Okay, you're telling me I've been patient all this time. I have to be more patient. I got that down.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to sweat it.
Well, that's exactly it, right? Like, I don't, at this point, patience is something that 2020 has taught everyone, I think. So, knowing that something is ready, is completed, I'm okay with waiting a little bit longer. Black Widow, we've been waiting. We're going to probably end up waiting another 5-6 months before it officially gets released in some shape, way, or form. So, I'm patient, if anything.
Yeah, because the work's done, right? I don't know, it's got to be so volatile for these production companies when they go out and they procure or sign on actors and actresses and all this stuff, and then the risk that's involved with this coronavirus. You know what I mean? What happens if that property or that person gets it? How does it impact your property? Like, just look at Black Panther with Chadwick, right? Like, how devastating is that? But it's really made Marvel have to start reconsidering, well, what's their plan for Black Panther 2?
Yeah.
Right? And we've got a variable out there, and not only in cancer, but in all these, highly communicable diseases that could affect people or even take their life, God forbid. And that's got to be a huge risk factor and everything for the production company. So I can see them, once they get those commitments of who's playing what, all right, let's get it over the finish line.
Yeah.
Hell or high water, we're gonna ink the deal to make sure that we have access to the spots we need to get this done.
That's exactly it. So, yeah. No, I'm just looking through. There's not much more to talk about this week, unfortunately.
Yeah,
this week was a little on the slower side.
Yeah, and this is going to be the problem, right? For this cycle where we're going into second phase or second wave. We've got a lot of political stuff going on in the States with the elections. I think that, basically companies have set the railroad tracks as far as media and whatnot. We're just going to be going week to week to discuss the things that do come out, because now we're getting really close to the time when we're going to be talking about our experiences in Cyberpunk 2077, because it's actually going to be here.
Yeah. Finally.
That type of thing. So we've had the hype train going. Now it's time for the delivery train to pull up, or the Amazon van to pull up and deliver. And then we're going to be back into that crunch again, right? Where we're going to be weekly devices, gadgets, games, movies, TV shows. Obviously, we've talked about the fact that it's going to be refocusing in on that TV or streaming service. So, yeah, but all this stuff, like, I hate to say it, but it's just kind of I'm sad that the Raised by Wolves is over. There's going to be a time when Mandalorian season 2 is over. Because we're like, oh, now we got to wait a year. And hope that the production goes through, right?
Yeah, exactly. But rest assured, everyone, we do have tons of awesome shows planned.
Yep.
Like I mentioned, we're going to have our, this generation of console review. We're going to give our top picks, worst picks, add our commentary. We're going to have a little fun with that. We want to make it super interactive with our listeners. So again, send us your top picks of PS4, your top picks for Xbox One, and your worst picks for both systems. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like. And Phil, tell them how they can send this feedback.
Well, you can find us on the interwebs at www.itscanonpodcast.com. You can track us down on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at It's Canon Podcast. You can email us at show@itscanonpodcast.com. You can subscribe via Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere where you find podcasts. We're going to be there. And really, we got to thank everybody for listening. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you leave a review. Let us know how you feel about the shows. Give us all the feedback. We're excited. We're going to have lots of interviews hopefully coming up as well. I'm looking forward to later on this week when we talk to Jim Zub. And it's just fascinating to have a legend like him on our show. And we hope to do it more often.
Yeah. We're also going to be joined by the great guys from Brews and Blasters. Yet again, a guest that we had on 5 years ago. So we're going to be talking about all things Mandalorian with them. And that's going to be a fun show. In fact, that's next week. So it's going to be fun. We have a lot of fun stuff planned. Because this is the It's Canon Podcast. The podcast where we talk about all things everything. We talk about all things comics, all things toys, all things video games, all things books, all things everything. And Phil, do you know what the best part of it all is?
It's all in canon.
That's right. It's all in canon. We are the It's Canon Podcast. I'm Boris. He's Phil. Take care. Good night. Tune in Wednesday for interview with Jim Zub. Later.
Be safe, everyone.
And that's that.